You know, the whole US tax system, it runs on numbers. But what happens when you have to file taxes, but you can't get the main one, a social security number? Well, that's where a different 9-digit number comes into play, the ITIN. It is absolutely essential for millions, but wow, is it surrounded by a ton of confusion. So today, we're going to cut through all that noise and demystify the individual taxpayer identification number.
All right, so here's the game plan for this explainer. We'll kick things off with the core problem. Then we'll decode what an ITN really is, walk through the tough application process, see what life with an ITN actually looks like, and then, at the end, I'll leave you with a toolkit of some must-have resources.
Okay, so let's set the stage here. The US tax system, right? It needs a taxpayer ID number from you. For most people, that's their social security number. Simple enough. But what if you're not eligible for one? That's the central problem, the dilemma that the ITIN was created to solve.
And that leads us right to the big question. Who is this number actually for? The answer might be a little broader than you think, and it all boils down to one single thing: having a requirement to file US taxes.
Okay, so here's the real takeaway. This isn't about your immigration status at all. It's all about your tax status. If the US tax code says you have to file a return, it doesn't matter if you're a non-resident with US income or the spouse of a US citizen, and you can't get an SSN, the ITIN is the specific tool the IRS built for you to do that.
All right, so we know who needs one. Now let's get super clear on what an ITIN actually is. Because trust me, understanding what it does, and just as importantly, what it doesn't do, is the key to avoiding some really common mistakes.
So here's the official breakdown, straight from the IRS. It's a 9-digit number. You can always spot it because it starts with a 9, and it is designed for one and only one specific job: processing federal tax returns. Think of it like a key that only unlocks the tax filing door, nothing else.
And this right here, this really draws a bold line in the sand between an ITIN and an SSN. An ITIN is purely for tax stuff. It does not let you work, it won't get you social security benefits, and it doesn't change your immigration status one bit. This is the distinction where pretty much all the confusion comes from.
And just to be absolutely crystal clear, the IRS is super specific about what an ITIN is not. It is not a work permit. It is not a path to getting a green card, and it doesn't make you eligible for certain tax credits like the Earned Income Tax Credit. Knowing these limits can save you from making some major missteps.
All right, the million-dollar question: how do you actually get one of these things? The process can feel like a real maze, which is why we're calling it the application gauntlet. But if you break it down into steps, it's definitely something you can manage.
When you strip it all down, it really comes down to just these 3 things. First, you fill out the official form, the W-7. Second, you gather up very specific documents to prove who you are. And third, you attach all of that to the very tax return that proves you need the ITIN in the first place. See, it's all one package.
Now, the cool thing is, the IRS gives you a few different ways to tackle this, depending on what you're comfortable with. You can mail everything, but let's be honest, not everyone wants to mail their original passport. So your other options are to go in person to an official IRS center or to use what's called a certifying acceptance agent, who can check your documents and hand them right back to you.
Okay, let's talk about the waiting game, because you gotta set your expectations right. The IRS officially says processing takes about 7 weeks. But honestly, that can easily stretch to 11 weeks or even more if you're applying right in the middle of tax season or if you're applying from outside the US. So yeah, patience is definitely key here. The good news is, after you send everything off, you're not just left hanging. You're gonna get one of these official notices in the mail. The CP-565, that's the one you want. It means you're approved. A CP-566 means they just need a little more info. And a CP-567, well, that's a rejection, and you'll have to figure out what went wrong and resubmit. All right, so you've survived the gauntlet. That beautiful CP-565 notice with your new ITIN shows up in the mail.
What's next? This is where the story really gets interesting, because the ITIN has started to be used for things way beyond what it was originally created for. First things first, and this is a really crucial point, an ITIN isn't something you just get and forget about. You have to use it. If you go 3 straight tax years without filing a tax return that needs it, that number expires. It's a use it or lose it kind of deal.
Okay, and this is a huge and kind of surprising takeaway. While the IRS only made the ITN for taxes, the financial world had other ideas. A lot of banks, credit unions, and lenders will actually accept an ITN instead of an SSN to let you open an account and even build a credit history. It's become this unofficial key to the US financial system, which is a really powerful side effect. And here's the what happens if part. If you let that ITIN expire and then try to file your taxes, well, you're in for a headache. The IRS will flag it, your return will get delayed, and you could be denied tax credits you're otherwise entitled to, all until you go through the renewal process. It's a mistake you really want to avoid. So what if your situation changes and you actually become eligible for a Social Security number? The rules here are really simple and you have to follow them. Step 1, stop using your ITIN right away. Step 2, you have to tell the IRS in writing so they can combine all your old tax records under your new SSN. It's super important for making sure you get credit for all the taxes you've paid.
All right, let's finish this up by giving you a toolkit with some essential resources. Navigating all this ITN stuff is so much easier when you know exactly who to call and what to look for.
Pay attention to this one, because this is probably one of the most valuable, actionable bits of info we have. Forget the main IRS number for a sec. This is the direct line to the ITIN unit. If you're stuck waiting on your application and that 11-week window has passed, this is the number that can save you hours of waiting on hold and get you a direct answer. And here's the rest of your go-to list. The general helplines for folks in the US and abroad. The name of that all-important application form, it's Form W7. And the exact phrase to search on the IRS website to find an authorized agent near you. And you know, don't for a second think this is just some tiny niche part of the tax system. According to the Taxpayer Advocate Service, the ITIN program is a huge part of how the IRS works. We're talking millions of tax returns and billions of dollars in revenue every single year. It's a big deal. So, that leaves us with this final thought. Was the ITIN built just to be a simple tax number, or has it accidentally become something much bigger? A key that unlocks financial life in America for many people. It's a fascinating example of how a simple government tool can take on a life of its own and have a huge impact.